Hi ladies, how are you? As you hop on, please say hi. If you're watching the replay, let me know that you're here. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, here I am. I dropped my phone. Okay, I don't have my tripod because I thought that it might be what was causing the sound effects on my first couple videos, so I've been using books to prop up my phone. Hopefully it works. As you hop on live, just let me know that you're here, or if you're watching the replay, let me know who you are. I'd love to hear who's watching. As you saw in the comments, I am a little bit nervous about this video, and I've been dragging my feet coming on live today because I knew that I wanted to talk about this topic of the importance of sharing our stories, and I wanted to share my own story about anxiety and depression and just stress management. And I've never really talked about this, to publicly before, so it's a little nerve-wracking, but I do believe that it is the best thing that we could do for ourselves is start really being honest about how we feel and about what our struggles are and about what we've been through, and how can I ask you to do that if I'm not doing it myself, right? So here I am. So let's just take like 3 deep breaths together while we're here, because this is like a little bit of a heavier topic today. So if you can, just place one hand on your heart and then your other hand over that hand. I'm holding my tea, so I'm just going to do one hand, and just close your eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose and out of your mouth with a sigh. 2 more, breathing in through your nose, out of your mouth with a sigh. And last one, take your deepest breath of the day, breathing in through your nose, hold it, take one more little sip of air in, and let it out with a sigh. And when you're ready, just open your eyes. Okay, so here we are, and today is day 4 of the self-care for stress relief training that we've been doing. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview about what we've been talking about so far. Day 1 of the training, I talked about what self-care really is and why it's more than just, taking care of yourself by getting your hair and nails done and maybe getting a massage. How it's really about just having daily actions and intentions to really make sure that we're well taken care of every day, and we have time for ourselves every day so that we feel like we're supported and well taken care of in our lives. And then also kind of looking at the bigger picture of our lives and seeing where in our lives do we need more support, where do we need to set better boundaries, what do our relationships look like, how can we create better relationships. Hi, I see somebody's there. Let me know who you are. I'm just recapping what the last few days of the training have been about. So day 1 was just about, so like self-care, taking daily actions to take care of yourself, and then also looking at the bigger picture about like what decisions or changes do you need to make in your life so that you're living a life where you feel supported and well taken care of. So that was day 1, and I shared a lot of examples from my own life about how I use self-care as a way to prevent stress from overtaking my life. Hi, Amanda. So happy you're here. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate the moral support, and I hope that you find the training helpful tonight. So in the first video, Amanda, I think you watched it, but in case you didn't, in the first video I gave some examples of how I incorporate self-care into my daily life as, like a busy mom of a 2-year-old, and just all the things that are going on in my life and how I make time for myself despite what else is going on. So I see people are hopping on. Just say hi, let me know who's here. I'm just going over what we've been talking about in our training for the last several days. Today is day 4 of our training, and I just talked about day 1, which was all about what self-care really is and why it's the #1 way to prevent anxiety and stress from taking over our lives. And then day 2 of the training, I talked about the 6 keys to living a happy and peaceful life. And I'm not going to get into them in too much detail right now, but the 6 keys were: #1, develop a spiritual practice of your own understanding. #2, learn to love yourself for all your own unique qualities, flaws and all. Number 3 was to look at your relationships and create healthy relationships and a good solid support system. Number 4 was to cultivate body love and start really taking care of your body. Number 5 was to look at your home environment and make sure that it's, somewhere that you enjoy coming home to at the end of the day, really making it your sanctuary and your happy place. And then number 6 was just realizing that you are the person who's in control of your life, and it's up to you to start creating the life that you want to be living. So that's what we talked about in day 2's training. I encourage you to go back and watch that so that you could, hear a little bit more about these 6 keys and suggestions for how you could start incorporating them all into your life. And then day 3, yesterday's training, was all about asking for help and receiving support. So I talked about a 3-step process that you can use to start feeling more supported in your life. And the first step is to look at the areas in which you are already supported. Sometimes we're so supported in some ways that we kind of take it for granted. So start looking at that. And then the second step is to look at the areas of your life where you feel a little overwhelmed and stressed out, and maybe those are the areas where you need a little bit more help. So start thinking about what kind of help you want, and specifically what kind of support you need, and then ask for that support exactly in the way in which you need it. So that was yesterday's training, day 3. So I encourage you to go back and watch that one if this topic resonates with you. And then tonight, we're talking about the importance of sharing our stories. And if you take nothing else away from this 5-day training, I think tonight's topic is the most important one, is to just really start talking about sharing your stories, sharing your struggles, sharing the things that are hard in your life. Don't live your life don't only put out the highlight reel, right? Let's be real and let's talk about how we feel. Share your struggles, share what you've been through with other people. And the reason why this is just such an important topic that I felt called to talk about is because, as I'm going to get into, I have had a long struggle of anxiety and depression in my life. And for a long time, for many years, I really did not want anyone to know that. I kept it hidden. I thought that it was embarrassing, and I didn't want anyone to know that I was struggling. So for many years, what I did was, when I felt like depression or anxiety creeping in, I would hide. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I would shut off my phone, and I would just disconnect from the world for a few days until I felt like, I could go out and face the world again. Or the other thing I would do is just, put on a happy face and pretend that everything was fine and pretend that I was happy, when inside I was miserable and anxious and just like a ball of nerves. So those 2 ways of dealing with this did not serve me. And then what happened was, when I started actually healing a little bit and moving through these struggles that I was going through, I started to telling people about it. And guess what happened when I started telling people, hey, I'm having a bad day today, or oh my God, I have the worst anxiety? Do you know what happened? Almost everybody said, oh, that sucks. I get anxiety too. My sister has anxiety. I know what that's like. I was really depressed when this and this and this happened in my life. I'm anxious too. So that's what happened. Hi, Sharon. How are you? I'm just talking about how for a long time I tried to hide my struggles with depression and anxiety, and I didn't want anyone to know about it. And I kept it hidden. And then when I realized that it really was just eating me up inside to have to hide or act phony to the world, I started just telling people the way that I really felt. When I was having a bad day, I would tell someone, and I would just, if I was anxious about something at work, I would be like, oh my God, I have the worst anxiety. And everyone was so supportive. Everyone just, you would be surprised how many people can relate to you when you are honest and real with them. So I started telling people that I'm having a bad day, I have anxiety, I've been a little depressed, I'm feeling down, and people were like, me too. And it just made me see why have I been hiding this? It's so common. There's so many people out there who are struggling too, and we need to show up and start sharing how we're feeling, because otherwise, it makes everyone else feel so alone. And the reason why we feel like we have to hide when we feel these ways is because no one talks about it. No one talks about it. You have to start talking about it to make it normal. We have to like end the stigma around mental health. Stop people from thinking that it's crazy to feel anxious or it's crazy to be depressed. Like, no, these are like feelings and they're part of our lives. And if we start talking about them and make them normal, then it's going to help everybody, because the more that we keep things hidden, the more that they eat us up inside and the worse that we feel. So I really think it's just so important to really just start sharing our stories and start talking about how we truly feel on a day-to-day basis, where we need help, where we need support, and share our stories. And I'm sure that as you hear my story tonight, maybe for some of you, some of the things that I share might resonate with you. And, you know, like our stories are going to be different. Chances are like we all have different circumstances, but I'm sure that like the struggles that I described, the feelings, the way that I felt, the hardships that I've had, I'm sure that you have had them too. And that's how we relate to each other. And that's how we like truly connect with each other, is by, you know, sharing not just the good parts of our life, but also the difficult ones. So, Sharon, I have worn a mask for most of my life. No one in my circle seems to truly understand. Most are judgmental. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry to hear that. And I think that's why it's so important to have spaces like this too, where it's safe to show up exactly as you are and know that you're welcome with open arms. And just really just, you know, find at least one person that you can start talking to and be honest with, because it really makes such a big difference. So, like I said, I really want to encourage everybody to. So we are in this group called the Stress Free Society, and the group is for people who have struggled with, anxiety and stress management. So chances are that all of you here in this group have some kind of story about anxiety, right? So I really want you to start getting a little brave about sharing your story with someone who you trust. And I know that, like, how can I ask you to start sharing your story if I don't feel comfortable enough to share mine? So I'm going to share my story tonight. So for those of you who some of you I know in my personal life, and others of you have maybe, but I've never actually spoken about them out loud. So that's why tonight I've been like a little like anxious and just a little nervous about talking about it, because again, these are not normal things that everyone, talks about on a daily basis, but I want to make it normal. So I'm going to start by telling you my story. And I know that for each of us, our stories, our histories of anxiety start at a different place. Oh, hi. Okay, so sorry about that. It said that I lost connection, and now I've been walking all over my house trying to get a better signal. But I'm going to try to go back where I was, because there's better lighting in there, and I just stepped into my husband's office, and I don't know, that's not really where I normally hang out, and I'm talking about something a little vulnerable, so I want to be in my room where I feel comfortable. So hopefully the connection stays good. Let me just try to prop my phone up again. If you are still here, please say hi so that I know that you're still here and I didn't totally lose you with the bad connection. Sorry about that. That's never happened before. Oh, Amanda. Okay, great. Okay, I'm glad you're still here. And if it happens again, I will move into a different room. But thanks for bearing with me. Okay, so as I was saying, I know that for each of us, our history of, whatever mental health or issue that we struggle with, for me, it's anxiety, it was depression. I guess it's kind of both, right? They kind of go hand in hand. But so we all have a different point in our lives where we started feeling this way. So, oh, good, Sharon. So happy you're here too. Okay, so I know some of us, maybe we started suffering from these conditions as children. Maybe it's something we've had all our lives. Maybe for others of us, maybe it's something that was triggered by a traumatic life event. For others of us, maybe we had postpartum anxiety and it's kind of been sticking around for a while. And so like we all come to this place at different points in our life, right? And for me, I guess, so my story, I suppose, starts when I was young, and I had a had a happy childhood, like don't get me wrong, but I feel like I was always kind of a sensitive child. I was a little nervous about things. Just I remember I was always very cautious about like trying new things and going new places, and I was always really nervous like to have sleepovers and things like that. And I don't know, like maybe part of it is like the way I was raised because my parents were kind of strict, but I think part of it is just like that's just my natural tendency. That's just, you know, who I am and what I came into the world with is just like a more sensitive nervous system, right? So like, but I got through life okay this way. I was fine. I was a happy kid. And my anxiety really started to get completely out of control when my mom died when I was 20. And that was, I'm 36 now. So just for reference, that was, you know, 16 years ago. So when my mom passed away, I like sunk into a spiral of anxiety and depression, and I just felt like I could not cope with life. And my mother was an amazing mom, and she was just, you know, she was like my rock. She was the person who like made me feel safe and understood and just like taken care of. So when I lost her and I lost that, I felt like I was unprepared to take care of myself. Like I was 20 years old, but I still felt like a kid, and I still felt like, what am I going to do now? Like I wasn't used to fending for myself. So I just sunk into like this. First it started as like just like this horrible like depression where I couldn't get out of bed in the morning for a long time, and I was in college and I just stopped going to class because I just couldn't deal. And then eventually I got myself up enough to start going to therapy, and I went on some medication, and I started feeling a little better, but I mean, kind of. I was like going through the motions, I guess. And then what happened was, so I was in college and I joined a sorority, and I thought that like the solution to my problem was going to be to just like get busy with like all my friends, and I just had a very active social life. But what started happening was that I didn't really take the time to really grieve the loss of my mom. And I started turning to like the wrong things for comfort. So I started really drinking a lot. And I just started feeling like this like horrible anxiety that I felt from the moment that I woke up in the morning to the second that my head crashed on the pillow at night. I just like had, you know, like if I'm sure you've felt anxious before, like that feeling in your chest where you just like don't know what to do with it. I just felt like that. I was like a bundle of nerves all the time, all day long. So in order to like kind of just like numb all these feelings that I was feeling, I started drinking really a lot, heavily. I was smoking a lot of weed. I was taking tons of prescription pills, and I was just really taking everything that I could get my hands on at the time to just numb myself from these feelings and emotions that I was feeling that I just could not cope with. And it, you know, like looking back, it was a really sad time in my life, but I had no coping mechanisms and I didn't know what else to do. So what happened was that my life started to really get very out of control, and it started to look like, this is what my life looked like, and this went on for years. So I would just go out every night drinking with my friends, and this was socially acceptable because we were all in college and we were all in a sorority, and that's just, you know, what everybody did. Everybody wanted to have fun, right? So I would go out drinking every night. And then I would wake up the next morning and I would feel even worse. I would feel very depressed. I would feel very low. I would feel even more anxious because, of course, like the alcohol running through my body was not helping, right? It made me feel worse. So I would wake up and I would feel even worse, and I wouldn't be able to cope with the way I was feeling. So I started smoking pot. Like the second that I woke up, I was popping pills, and I was just counting down the hours until happy hour came along and I could just start drinking and numb myself and like black out and not have to deal with life all over again. And like, I'm saying this very matter-of-factly now, but it's really sad that that's what I turned to in order to cope with my feelings of loss and sadness and anxiety and depression. But it's just, I didn't have the tools. I was not equipped. I didn't know what else to do. So that's what my life looked like for the longest time. And I found myself just in a very bad, dark place. I had stopped going to all my classes at this point. I had basically, for all intents and purposes, like dropped out of college because I wasn't going to any classes. I had lost my job because I just stopped showing up for it. I had tons of credit card debt. I had a pile of bills that I was like ashamed to even look at. So I just, every time the mail came, I just let it all pile up. And I felt completely overwhelmed by my life. I could not deal with what was going on. Also at this time, I got into a really just dysfunctional relationship that made me even more miserable. And I was not living a good life. And what started really changing everything for me was that I somehow got my hands on the book The Secret. And let me know if you ladies have read it before. And this might sound like a little cliche, but like this like whole world was brand new to me at the time. I had never, for those of you that don't know what The Secret is, it's a book about the law of attraction. And the law of attraction basically is that what we focus our thoughts and our energy on is what we attract into our life, right? So this was a brand new way of looking at the world for me, because up until then, I had been living my life thinking that like I had a shitty life because those were just the cards that I had been dealt. And I thought that, maybe some people were happy because they were lucky and just had a good life, but like that wasn't me because I just got dealt a bad hand of cards, and that was just like what I was stuck with, and that was just the way that my life was destined to be forever. And reading this book really was like an awakening for me, because it made me see like, oh, like maybe my life is so bad because I'm focusing on doing all these things that make me feel bad, and all I think about all day is I'm so anxious, I'm so miserable, I hate my life. So I started seeing like the decisions that I was making in my life were really just attracting more and more negative things into my life. And so I started to think, like, if I'm attracting bad things in my life, would it be possible for me to attract good things into my life too? So I really started just taking a look at my life and seeing, like, what can I take responsibility for, and what changes can I start to make, and, see if this whole law of attraction thing really works. So the first thing I did was I ended that like messy, terrible relationship that I was in. And that was like something that had been dragging me down for a couple years at that point. And I finally let it go. And that opened up a whole lot of space in my life, just not having that like toll on me, that like drain on me. So that opened up space for me to just start doing other things with my life. And then little by little, I started making better decisions and my life started to change. I stopped drinking as much. Around this same time, not around the same time, a little bit later, I ended up meeting my now husband. And when I met him, I knew that he was someone who had also been through, some difficult things in his life. But the way that he was dealing with the hard things he had been through was not to use them as an excuse to stay down, how I had been doing, but he was using it more as like an excuse to be better. Like he was saying, like, by his actions, what I saw was that he was saying, like, these things happened to me, these were my circumstances, but this is not who I am. I'm better than that, and this is what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to show up, and I'm going to kill it at life, and I'm just going to, show the world, like, this is me, and he, like, rose to the challenge. So watching, like, the way that he handled hard things in his life really inspired me to want to be better and do better in my life, too. So just like surrounding myself with him and other more positive people and people that, weren't really into the party scene, little by little, I started feeling better. I stopped drinking as much as I was drinking. And I remember it was New Year's Day, 2007. And I woke up and I said, maybe this is going to be the year that I stop smoking pot. And I did. I stopped smoking weed that year. And then later that year, I also, I started doing just a lot of things to really just change my mindset and start just feeling better. I really got into self-development. I started reading a lot more books. I this is when I got really into yoga and really into meditating, and I just started doing things that made me find that inner peace that I thought that I would never find. And then later that year, little by little, I was able to get myself off of all of the medication that I had been on. And I was on like a lot of meds. Like I was on depression medication. I was taking Xanax multiple times a day. I was taking sleeping pills. And like, I'm not saying you need to get off your medication, like at all. Like, you know, like I know we're all at different points in our journey, and we all, you know, there's definitely a time and place for medication, and some of us need it and some of us might need it for a long time. But for me, my personal story is that by doing all of these other things to make myself happy and just naturally find peace, I was able to get myself off of all these medications. And I was someone who was highly depressed, and I was told by several doctors that I would be on medication for all of my life. And now we're in 2018, so 11 years, almost like 10, 11 years later, and I've never taken medication again. And I feel like I've healed my anxiety, and it all started by realizing that I am the person in charge of my life. So, I mean, that's like the gist of my story. And now I'm not saying that, you know, I never feel anxious or depressed anymore, because I think that anxiety and depression are something that some of us are just more sensitive to. And I've come to terms with the fact that, you know, I'm maybe more likely to experience feelings of anxiety, feelings of depression than other people. But the difference is that now, like 10 years later, I have so many tools for managing my anxiety. So whereas before, like the story that I just shared, I let like anxiety and depression knock me down for years of my life. Now, when something happens or just I start feeling, you know, anxious or depressed, I get down maybe for a couple days on a long stretch, but sometimes, like most times, I'll just, you know, I'll start feeling anxious and depressed for a couple hours, and then I'll be like, I'm done with this, and I'll start making shifts in my mindset. I'll start doing breathing exercises. I'll do yoga. I'll go outside. I'll just use my essential oils. I'll do like all of these things that I know that I can do to feel better. So it doesn't last as long. Sometimes it lasts 5 minutes and immediately I shift myself out of it. And like, that's what I want for you too. This is why I'm sharing this with you, because I want you to see that if it's possible for me to go from that, you know, horrific low place that I was in to now living a very calm and peaceful life, like it's possible for you too. And again, like these feelings do still creep up in my life, and different life circumstances are just likely to stress us out and cause us to maybe feel anxious or depressed again. So like for me, I don't know if you ladies watched, I think you did both watch the first video where I talked about how life is kind of like cyclical, like a big circle. So there's stretches of time where like it's like smooth sailing and everything's going good in our lives, right? So I was lucky that I had a few years like that where things were running very smoothly in my life. Things were going well. There was nothing majorly chaotic or majorly stressing me out. So I had a good ride, right? But then like there's been more recently, there's been different situations that have caused like my anxiety to set in again. Like first, when I got pregnant, I had some anxiety when I was pregnant. I was just really nervous about my pregnancy, but I worked like my tools and I figured out what I could do to feel better, what's going to serve me and support me in having a stress-free, peaceful pregnancy. And I did, like I figured it out by the second trimester. Like I was journaling every day. I was doing Kundalini meditations. I was just connecting with my baby, and I had a very peaceful pregnancy because I took the time and effort to figure out what I needed at that time. And then as a new mom, again, I had to figure out, you know, everything I had been doing previously for self-care was no longer available to me. So what could I start doing now? What tools could I start incorporating now into this life phase to help me out? So that was another time. Then last year when I quit my job and became a stay-at-home mom, like it's what I wanted to do, but it was still a huge adjustment that I didn't realize what a big transition it was going to be. And again, I had to find a rhythm. I had to find what worked for me. I had to find, you know, just ways to support myself in that new stage of my life. And now, as you both know, like my situation with my grandma, like I'm working my tools every single day so that I don't let like my anxiety completely consume me. So this is what it looks like now in everyday life. Like I still feel anxious and depressed, but I don't consider myself I don't consider myself someone that is anxious and depressed, if that makes sense. Like I still struggle with those things, but I don't think that like they define me at all. And so let me see. Do you have any questions? Let me just rest and pause there for a minute. I've seen the movie. Yeah, Sharon. So I saw the movie too. I remember watching it in a yoga class like years and years ago. And I would invite you to revisit it, right? The Secret is also a movie. It's a movie and a book. So, you know, like maybe you want to read the book. And I mean, maybe The Secret is not what's going to do it for you. Like that's the whole thing, is we have to just keep using different tools, and different things will come into our life at the right time. We just have to stay open to like what opens up for us, and what signs we get, and what books we're drawn to, and what people we're drawn to, what courses we're drawn to, what just, you know, like what do we want to listen to, what podcasts do we want to hear. There's so much available to us now, especially with the internet, right? So just like start to notice what are you naturally drawn to and try to do more of that. The Magic, awesome. The Magic is another book by the same author of The Secret, just for anybody that doesn't know. So another thing that I wanted to share is why I've become so passionate about this subject is that, you know, like I feel like I have pretty much healed my mental illness. Like, not that like I don't feel difficulty in my life. I still feel challenged sometimes by everyday life. I still, you know, have anxious feelings, and sometimes I still get down. Like, I'm a human being, but I feel like I have healed the part of me that's just, you know, felt like life was out of control and life was just happening to me and I was destined to be unhappy. And then what happened was this fall, an old friend of mine committed suicide. And it really was, I'm going to get emotional talking about it, but it really was really just so, it hit me really hard, because this person, he was like, if you knew him or talked to him, like he was the last person that you ever would have thought was struggling like this. He was like one of those kind of people that was like the life of the party, and just very charismatic, and just very friendly and happy-go-lucky, and just like talked to every single person that he ever came across and made everybody feel good. And to think that somebody who puts that face to the world and helps so many people by his good attitude felt so low and so down inside that he felt that the only way to cope was to take his life, like, that just sucks, right? And it made me realize how many people in the world are still suffering in silence from their mental illness, from their anxiety, from their depression, from their bipolar, or whatever you might be facing, right? And we need to start talking about this shit, right? We can't walk around feeling like we have to pretend that we're happy all the time when we're not. We have to share how we really feel, because that's how we heal, is by talking about it. And I think what happens is that anxiety starts out as like a little seed. And for me, I feel it in my chest most of the time. I know some people maybe in their stomach, wherever that starts out for you. So you have this little seed of anxiety. And if you start to talk about how you're feeling and start telling people that you're feeling anxious, you're letting it come out. You're getting it out of your body, right? But if you keep your anxiety to yourself, and you feel like you need to hide it from the world, and you feel like you need to go hide when you're feeling down, or you need to pretend that you're happy when you're not, what happens is this little seed starts to grow. And before you know it, you have a whole forest of anxiety taking over your body. And that's when you feel like, I can't cope. I can't deal with this because it's gotten too big for you, right? And the way to let it not get too big for you is to start talking about it and start sharing about it. And let's end this stigma around mental health where people are all suffering in silence thinking that they can't talk about how they truly feel. It's bullshit. It really is. And so the death of my friend really just was an awakening for me because it just made me see how lucky I am that I was able to pull myself out of like the depths of darkness, because I was the most miserable person. And some of the people in this group, like, you knew me 10 years ago. Sorry, phone call. The thing is, if you knew me 10 years ago, back then when I was drinking and doing drugs all the time, like, chances are you didn't know that I was miserable, right? Because I put on a happy face. I seemed like I was just, like drinking and partying and having fun and just like carefree, right? But like the truth is I wasn't carefree. I was careless, and I wasn't just partying because I thought that like life was a big party. I was partying because I thought that life was meaningless. And that just goes to show, like, you never know what someone is going through inside. And I've just really realized, like, what a blessing that I was able to get myself out of that situation. And that really became like a call to action for me, that like, if I was able to heal, like, I need to share this with other people. I need to encourage other people and share what I've learned and see if other people could benefit from it. Because what am I doing keeping this to myself? Like, other people need to know. So that's when I created this Facebook group in the fall. I think I created the group in November. And now, we're in the beginning of January, and there's, I think last time I looked, maybe 285 people in the group in a short amount of time. And what does that tell you? Like, there's 285 people who in some way, shape, or form are struggling with stress and anxiety right now. And guess what? There's more than 200 of us. There's millions of people in the world who are struggling. But we're all feeling like we're all alone, and like we're not alone. Like, this is very common, and we need to start talking about it. So thank you for bearing with me. And I know I'm getting very passionate about it, but I really want to encourage everybody who's watching, if you're here with me live, if you're watching the replay, just stop keeping your feelings to yourself. Start sharing who you really are, how you really feel, and how you're struggling. Like, you don't have to pretend that you're happy if you're not. You don't have to hide until you feel better. Start sharing with somebody how you feel right now, because that's the only way that we're gonna put an end to all these people really like hurting themselves because they're scared to speak their truth. So, yeah, so I mean, the fact that I feel like I've been able to just overcome just such a hard time in my life, and just like, I feel so fortunate to have the life that I live now. Like, I have an amazing like husband, like the most precious little child. I got to quit my job. I get to now work supporting other women and trying to help them. I'm so fortunate to live this life, and I don't want to keep it to myself. And that's why like I started this Facebook group. And like, I think, I love our Facebook group, and I've gotten good feedback where like, I think it's helpful to people. Hi, Tony Ann. So I started this group because I wanted those of us who feel like we're all alone and feel like nobody understands our struggle with stress management or anxiety or depression to realize that like there's a whole community of us who are struggling, and we're right there in the trenches with you, and we all want to get better, and we're going to lift each other up together, right? But then, like, I started to think there's only so much that I could do in a Facebook group. How could I support people who are really ready to really start changing their lives? And that's why I created this coaching program that I've been talking a lot about this week, Self-Care Queen. And the curriculum to the program is exactly what I use to heal myself in my life. So So like week 1 in the program is talking about the law of attraction and just helping you make that mindset switch. And then I start helping you learn to embrace yourself and love yourself exactly how you are, despite, you know, any flaws that you might see. Like how I thought that my anxiety and depression was just like this shameful thing that I had to hide. Like, no, it's part of who I am. And now I could use that to help other people. Right? Like we all have these good things, like good qualities, and we all have like these challenging parts of our personality, but they all make us who we are and they're all beautiful. So we need to start embracing all of us. So that's also part of the program. Then I start talking about just like relationships in your life. Maybe there's relationships that are toxic that you need to let go of, just like that like terrible boyfriend that I had, right? So we spent a whole month just talking about relationships and building a healthy support system. And then we talk about body love, right? Like, how are you going to treat your body well? What feels good in your body? Like, for me, it was yoga and meditation, and like, stop putting things in my body that are going to make my anxiety even worse. Like, you know, like the alcohol and, you know, the drugs. And, you know, at times in my life, and I'm sure for some of you, maybe it's like bad foods that you're eating, right? Like, it's very hard to stay peaceful if we're like polluting our body with things that like it has trouble processing. So that's like another thing that I talk about in this program. And then like another thing is like our homes, like making our homes feel like a sanctuary and a safe space for us. Because for me, like another thing that made a really big impact in my life becoming so much more positive is when I moved down to the beach, because this is where I always wanted to live, and just being able to just create like this home that I love at the place where I always knew that I belonged, like that brought a lot of joy and happiness to my life. And I'm not saying you have to move to the beach, but there's ways for you to get the same feeling exactly where you're at. So that. And then the last part of the program is to exactly what I've been talking about tonight, is just like to help you realize that you are in charge of your life. No one is going to come in and magically wave a magic wand and then suddenly you're going to be one of the lucky people that gets to live a good life. Like, I'm sorry, but that's not how it works. You are in charge of your life. You are the queen of your life. It's up to you to create the life that you want and the life that you deserve. And we all deserve a peaceful and happy life, and no one's going to give it to you. You have to go out and get it. And how you get it is by making moves in the right direction, taking good care of yourself, doing things in all of these areas that I talked about. So I really just have used my life experience, where everything that I've been incorporating into my life in the last 10 plus years to create a happy life. And this is what I teach in my program, Self-Care Queen. And that was really honestly just born out of the desire in my heart to really just help other people, because I saw my friend that was suffering, and I don't want anyone to suffer anymore. I want everyone to know that like you can heal too. And it's not like, I know that not everyone watching this video, I hope, is like a burnt out, alcoholic, like drug addicted, miserable, depressed, anxious person, how I was 10 years ago, right? I hope that that's not you, but more power to you. Even if you're feeling just a little bit unhappy, or you feel like something in your life is just a little off and it has to change, like you're already a few steps ahead. And like this program is going to help you even more to be able to figure out exactly what you need to do, what you need to be focusing on to feel better. And so as you can see, I'm very passionate about this, but I really just want everyone watching to know that it is possible for you to live a happy life. And it is not as hard as you think. And it's not like, I know that the idea might seem overwhelming, but that's why I created this program and why we have the group too. Like, I'm going to still be here supporting you all in the group. But in the program, like, I really guide everybody like step by step. Like, let's start with small doable steps that we could start taking every single day, every single week, to move you in the direction of the life that you want to be living. And that's it. So I hope that if this is speaking to you, if you're realizing that, you know, you need a little help, you need a little bit of a support system, maybe you're realizing that the people around you are not necessarily like the people that you want to be lifting you up, or that are maybe not capable of lifting you up. Like, I created this program to be your support system, and I want to be your support system too. So, yeah, so sorry, I got like a little fired up, but, if you're watching, if you're interested in signing up for Self-Care Queen, I had given an offer of discounted pricing for 24 hours. It was supposed to expire at 8 p.m. tonight, but I want everybody to get a chance to watch this video, and like, if this is speaking to you, like, I want you to still be able to sign up with a lower price. So I'm going to extend it until 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. So like 12 more hours, I think. So if you have any questions, if you're watching this and you're realizing that you need help and that you would love to go through like this little curriculum that I've created over the next 6 months, if you want me to be your best friend and your biggest cheerleader and show you how I transformed my life and help you transform yours, and if you want to be in a community of women who are all, you know, we share similar struggles, and we're going to be speaking our truth, and it's going to be a safe place for you to show up exactly as you are and not be judged, and be completely accepted exactly as you are. Like, if this is speaking to you, I really encourage you to sign up for the program. If you have any questions, if you have any hesitations, like, please message me. As you can see, like, I'm a normal person just like you. I'm very easy to talk to. And, you know, I know that the financial part is something that maybe might come up for you. I know that the biggest things are time commitment and the price of the program, right? So like, the time commitment is something that I can't fix for you, right? So that has to be something that you decide that, you know, like, you're really committed and devoted to changing your life, and you're going to give this program all it has, because I've poured my heart and soul into creating this program, but the program won't work unless you do the work, right? So you doing the work is really just showing up 3 times a month. We're going to meet. So we're going to have a monthly meditation call where I'm going to teach you tons of meditations to help you just like calm down. And then you're going to become a meditation master by the end of our 6 months together. And then there's the group coaching calls, which are going to be just like this call, like that we're having right now, except we're all going to be able to see each other on a video chat. And that's just your safe space to, again, just show up, share your story, tell your truth, and just know that you're going to be supported. And then the third part of the program is a one-on-one call with me. So you have to make time for these 3 things every month, right? And then also, like, to go through the lessons, I'm going to give you an email with different like tools and techniques and tips for every single week for the next 6 months. So you just have to take some time to go through the emails and then start incorporating what you're learning into your life. But it's all going to be in a way where it's very doable and not overwhelming, and I'm going to guide you step by step. So the time thing, you know, you have to decide. That's something that you have to decide if you're going to make the time for it. The financial piece, like, I've tried to make this program like a reasonable price for all of us, because it's really a lot of my time and effort as well. And I want it to feel like, you know, like it's a good energy exchange for all of us. But if the financial piece is something that's holding you back, and you are like watching this and you're saying like, yes, like, I'm really struggling and I need help and I would sign up for this program except for the financial part, like, send me a message. I am open to figuring something out. I'm open to like extending the payment options, lowering the plan, like the payment plan, maybe like making you pay it over a long period of time. Like, we can work something out that works for you, because if you need help, if you are struggling how I was struggling, or like maybe even just like a little bit struggling, like, I don't want you to struggle, and I don't want you to struggle alone, and I don't want money to be the one thing that holds you back. So if you're watching this and you're recognizing that you need help and you just really don't know if you could afford the program, just reach out to me. I'm happy to work with you and help figure out a way where like you could still join us, because if you need help, I want to help you. Okay? I don't want anyone else to feel like they have to go through this alone, because you don't. Just lean into the group. We're here to support you. Okay? So I'll stop talking about the program now, but I am going to give you your homework assignment for today. So As you know, we have been talking about sharing our stories, just like I've been sharing I think it's become a very long-winded story at this point, but I hope that it was helpful to you in some way, just to be able to see, like where I came from and where I've gotten to now, and how I've been able to heal myself. So I hope that by me sharing your story, it's been helpful to you. I also hope that by me sharing my story, it has inspired you to get out and share your story. So that is your homework assignment for today. And it's I realize it might be a little challenging because I was a bundle of nerves getting on this call tonight. But talking and speaking our truth and sharing our stories is the only way that we're going to heal. So I encourage you, get out and share your story in some way, shape, or form. And sharing your story doesn't necessarily mean you have to go on Facebook Live and share your story, although you're more than welcome to if you would like to. And you don't necessarily have to share like your whole story like I did tonight, but think about something that you have been keeping a secret, something that stresses you out and that you feel like you have to hide it from the world because you're embarrassed by it, or you just think that like the world is not capable of receiving it. And I challenge you to speak this story out loud. And speak it out loud to someone who you trust, who you know is going to be a receptive person, right? Because it could do more damage than good if you start being vulnerable and sharing your story to somebody who's not capable of supporting you in the way that you need support, right? So find someone who you love and trust and just tell them the truth of this secret you've been keeping, or the truth of this challenge that you're facing in your life right now, or this hardship that you're going through. And just know that you don't have to carry this burden all by yourself. Share it with somebody. Share it with someone who loves you and wants to support you. And I have an invitation for you. If you feel called, I would love for some of you to share your stories in our Facebook group. And our Facebook group is a private group of other women who I'm sure have very similar stories. And maybe the story is different, but like our struggles are similar, right? So the other thing I've noticed is that by us sharing our stories, it gives other people permission to share theirs. And it just promotes healing for all of us. Because if, I bet that something that I shared tonight maybe like struck a chord with you or resonated with you, right? And by me sharing how I've healed, like I hope that that's encouraging you to heal. And healing starts by telling the truth, speaking your truth, telling your story. So my invitation is, if you are open to it, share your story in our Facebook group. You can share it in a post and write it out. You can do a Facebook Live. You can go live in our group if you feel called to do that, if you feel comfortable doing that. You can share a little piece of your story. You can share the whole story. You can share your whole story starting at birth if you would like to. Just whatever you feel called to do, whatever is going to help you get this heavy thing that you've been carrying out of your body into the world so that you can start healing and you can start feeling better. Do that. Okay? So for some of you, it might be to share privately with someone in your personal life who you know and trust. And, for others of you, if you feel called to share more publicly, share in our Facebook group. I would love to hear your story. I've shared my story, so I think that helps connect us too, right? Don't you feel closer to me after hearing my story? So I would love to hear your story and just foster that connection and just help us all feel a little bit closer to you. So that's your homework assignment for tonight. Let me go back and just read some of the comments. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Amanda. Thanks, ladies. I really just appreciate all of your warm words and supportive words. And it's hard, right? It's hard. It's hard to share how we really feel, but I really appreciate your your words of support. And I know that we've all had like that dark night of the soul, right? And I believe that we have been brought together for a purpose, and that purpose is to help lift each other up and help each other heal. So I'm so like grateful that Amanda and Sharon, that you're both like still here watching, and everyone that's watching the replay. Like, I don't think that this is a mistake that you came across this video, and I hope that there's something in here that serves you. And so again, your homework assignment for tonight is to share your truth, share as much or as little as you feel comfortable sharing, but just the important thing is to just open up that can of worms, right? Start to feel like you don't have to carry it all by yourself, and it's safe for you to share. And just make sure that you share with someone who is a safe space for you. In our group, I promise you, will be a safe space if you feel like in your personal life it's a little tricky. And then again, last thing, if you are feeling called to sign up for my coaching program, Self-Care Queen, it starts on Monday. And again, I will extend the discounted pricing until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. After that, the price will go back up to normal. But like I said, if you need special arrangements to work out the payment plan, just reach out to me and I'm happy to work with you. Okay, ladies, and I just thank you so much for being here with me tonight and listening to me show up and share my story, because it was a little scary to do, but now what's going to happen is, now that I got it out there once, next time that I need to share, it's going to be a little bit easier, right? So thank you. Thanks for watching. And if anything comes up after you're, thinking about like what you want to share, and if you want support and feedback, feel free to either post in our group or message me personally. Like I'm happy to help you in any way that I can. So thanks, ladies. Thanks for watching. I hope that this video has been helpful for you, and have a great night. Kisses. Bye.